So, Bach Invention 13, um, I've kind of pieced together up to measure 18, and I'm venturing into coming into the home stretch here. And last night I put together what I think is probably, I haven't done the finale yet, but it looks like measure 19 was the most difficult measure in the entire piece. I'll explain why in a minute. And what I'm going to do, I'll let you know I've made some progress. Measures 1 through 18, I'm actually picking up the pace a little. I'm not going to do that for you now because I've already kind of done that, and you'll just have to believe me. And when I'm done with the series, I'll show you, and you'll see what happens of after about the end of 5 or 6 days of just putting an hour or two a day in on this piece. I pretty much completed it. And then will come the mastering of it. All right, so I'm going to go from measure 18, which I'm not playing. I'm not playing quickly yet, but I'm going to do that, and I'm going to keep it slow. Hopefully I can get through these, or measure 14 through 18, and then I'll go to the really difficult measure 19 and stop on the first note of number 20. So measure 14 starts out. Now, there were two wrong notes in there. One of them that was in the really difficult measure, and one was previous. I'm not going to, but what I'm going to go back, I'm going to go do the last two measures that I just did, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to think about what I did. So, what I'm going to really make my best effort is to not make that mistake again. Now, again, this is kind of a demonstration, a little bit of a tutorial if you're playing the piano or learning how to play. When you practice and you make a mistake, stop, go back in and play slower and really do your best not to make that mistake again. Because what happens is, and I said this in yesterday's video, when you start making the same mistake over and over, you're not just making a mistake, you're practicing how to do it wrong. And that type of practice will not make perfect. Repeated correct notes. When you practice, that is the practice that makes perfect. When you practice repeatedly and you play the right notes. If you practice repeatedly and make a lot of mistakes, you're practicing how to make mistakes, which is not the reason you're practicing. So I'm going to go back in, measure 18 and 19, and I'm going to stop on the first note of measure 20. Try to be extra conscious of what I'm doing here. Ha ha. error-free. I'm going to see if I can do that again. This is what it's like. So when you see somebody sit down and they play a beautiful piece, this is what goes into it. Man. All right, now you'll see I just did it about 6 or 7 times in a row correctly. The rule of thumb is when practice, if I was doing that with a metronome, is when you can do it 6 times in a row without any error in fingering or notes, then you can bring your metronome up to the next level. Now, that's it. I'm just going to explain to you real quick why that last measure is so difficult. The right hand does this. And the left hand does this. Now, in the first half of that measure, the first 8/16 notes, the hands move in what I call a parallel formation. In other words, they're pretty much doing it. They're playing these arpeggios, and it's doing lower, middle, top, middle, and then it does this cascade with both hands. And then the next 8 notes, the hands do the exact opposite for these 4 notes. Completely opposite. And then in this last 4 notes, and then the final note, the right hand does a lower note and then a 4-note scale, while the left hand does a descending cascade, which is literally in the last 8 notes, your hands are going in 8 different directions at once. So the hands for the first 8 notes, your brain is doing the exact same thing. And then for the last 8 notes, go complete discombobulato. And, you know, that's a strange word I use for just, you know, caterwauling. The hands are sort of just bouncing all over the place geometrically. Harmonically, they sound great together. All right, and then the remainder of the piece, or the next 4 measures, do this. which enters the main theme, and then it does a 3-measure finale, all full of 16th notes. But it doesn't look anywhere in terms of putting the hands together anywhere near as difficult as measure 19 did. So again, I feel like, putting This Is Your Brain on Bach, and I feel privileged that during all this crap that we're going through now, that I get to have, I have this gift that I get to focus my brain on something like this instead of the rubbish. And again, don't put rubbish in the temple, right? We don't put rubbish there. Put positive stuff. You can find something, other than, of course, wash your hands, practice social distancing, try to not to make contact with a lot of people, no gatherings. But, if you can find something, get a set of watercolors. Start taking, I don't know, anything. Do something creative. Pick up a good book. Do something positive and creative with your brain instead of watching the television all the time, which is not good for your brain. All right. Now, except YouTube, there's some good stuff on YouTube like this. So if you can sift, if you want to be a bit of a funnel and sift through what's there, there's some good stuff out there. YouTube is like, to me, it's like the second coming of the printing press, and everybody has one now. So if you go out there, find some good positive stuff that keeps the brain, moving in a positive direction. All right. And, folks, again, be well.